The internet is a vast, interconnected world where individuals can express themselves freely, often under the veil of anonymity. While this freedom has led to positive communities and creative collaborations, it has also given rise to darker, more disturbing personas. One such individual is Thomas Taylor Corliss, known online as OLDJACK. His journey from a troubled childhood to becoming a notorious and vile Discord user is a chilling narrative that sheds light on the intersection of personal trauma and online behavior. This essay explores Thomas's early life, his descent into disturbing online activities, his otherworldly obsession with large, male African-American genitalia, and his eventual downfall, as well as the factors that contributed to his transformation. Thomas Taylor Corliss was born into a family that was far from stable. His parents, though present, were emotionally distant, leaving Thomas and his older brother, Chris, to navigate their formative years largely on their own. Chris, who was several years older than Thomas, became a significant influence in his life, unfortunately not a positive one. Chris struggled with drug addiction, which led to erratic and often violent behavior. This environment of instability and neglect set the stage for Thomas's troubled childhood. Thomas's early years were marked by a profound sense of isolation. His height was severely stunted, leaving him several feet shorter than his peers at school. Thomas's elementary school classmate, Bobby, recalls Thomas as a reserved and introverted child who often seemed lost in his own world. Thomas was the kid who stood in line with his head down, avoiding eye contact and rarely engaging with his peers. His teachers noted that he was academically capable, but lacked the social skills to connect with others. This emotional withdrawal was a coping mechanism, a way for Thomas to shield himself from the chaos at home. Chris was supposed to be a protector and role model, but instead he became a source of trauma. Chris's drug addiction led to unpredictable behavior, and he often took out his frustrations on Thomas. The abuse was not just physical, it was also sexual. This horrific aspect of Thomas's childhood left deep psychological scars, shaping his worldview in ways that would later manifest in his online behavior. The abuse Thomas endured at the hands of his brother created a toxic environment that stifled his emotional development. He became increasingly withdrawn, finding solace in books and historical figures. One figure captured his imagination, Napoleon Bonaparte. Thomas was fascinated by Napoleon's rise to power, his military strategies, and his eventual downfall. This fascination with a historical figure known for his ambition and ruthlessness may have been a way for Thomas to cope with his own feelings of powerlessness, as well as his extremely small height. In Napoleon, he found a symbol of control and dominance, qualities he lacked in his own life. During his early teens, Thomas underwent a phase where he became deeply interested in atheism. This was a period of intense questioning and exploration for him. He rejected the religious beliefs he had been exposed to, finding them inadequate in explaining the suffering he had endured. Atheism, with its emphasis on rationality and skepticism, offered Thomas a sense of intellectual superiority. It also provided him with a framework to critique the world around him, which he saw as fundamentally flawed and unjust. Thomas's interest in atheism was not just a philosophical stance, it was also a way for him to distance himself from the moral frameworks that he felt had failed him. By rejecting religion, he was rejecting the idea of a higher power that could allow the kind of suffering he had experienced. This rejection of traditional morality would later play a role in his online behavior, where he seemed to revel in causing discomfort and chaos. When Thomas gained access to Discord in his early teens, it marked a turning point in his life. Discord, a platform designed for communication and community building, became an outlet for Thomas's pent-up anger and frustration. Under the username OLDJACK, he began to engage in behavior that was increasingly disturbing. His interactions with others were marked by cruelty, manipulation, and a blatant disregard for the well-being of those he encountered. Thomas's online persona was a stark contrast to the reserved, sad child his friends remembered. On Discord, he was aggressive, confrontational, and often outright vile. He seemed to take pleasure in provoking others, using the anonymity of the internet to unleash the darker aspects of his personality. His messages were filled with vitriol, and he often targeted vulnerable individuals, exploiting their insecurities for his own amusement. Among the many disturbing aspects of Thomas's online behavior, one particularly unsettling trait stood out: his otherworldly obsession with large, male African-American genitalia. This fixation became a central theme in his interactions, often dominating his conversations and leading to increasingly inappropriate and offensive behavior. Thomas's obsession was not just a passing interest, it was a consuming fixation that alienated him from others and further isolated him from any sense of normalcy. This obsession can be seen as a manifestation of Thomas's deep-seated psychological issues. The abuse he endured, combined with his feelings of powerlessness and rejection, may have led him to fixate on something that symbolized dominance and control in his mind. However, this fixation only served to deepen his alienation and contribute to his eventual downfall. As Thomas, now fully entrenched in his online persona as OLDJACK, continued to spiral deeper into his disturbing behavior, he sought to establish a legacy, a digital empire where he could exert absolute control. This ambition led to the creation of his most infamous project, a Discord server named Exodus. The server was marketed as a haven for freethinkers and outcasts, but in reality, it was a carefully constructed trap designed to feed OLDJACK's insatiable need for power and manipulation. What began as a twisted experiment in control quickly became a nightmarish reflection of his own descent into madness. OLDJACK ruled Exodus with an iron fist. He established himself as the server's unquestioned leader, enforcing strict rules and punishing dissent with ruthless efficiency. Members who dared to challenge his authority were publicly humiliated, banned, or subjected to psychological manipulation. OLDJACK's obsession with dominance extended to every aspect of the server, from its hierarchy to its content. He curated a culture of fear and submission, ensuring that his word was law. The server's themes were a chaotic blend of his personal fixations, historical conquests, atheistic nihilism, and most disturbingly, his otherworldly obsession with large, male African-American genitalia. These topics dominated conversations, often veering into grotesque and offensive territory. OLDJACK reveled in the discomfort of others, using his platform to push boundaries and exploit vulnerabilities. His behavior grew increasingly erratic, and his grip on reality seemed to loosen with each passing day. Among the many victims of OLDJACK's tyranny, one story stands out as particularly harrowing. The manipulation of Mia, a young, innocent Asian girl who had joined Exodus seeking friendship and community. Mia was kind-hearted and trusting. Unfortunately, these qualities made her an easy target for OLDJACK's predatory behavior. He quickly zeroed in on her. What followed was a campaign of psychological and sexual manipulation that marked a new low, even for OLDJACK. He isolated Mia from other members, cutting her off from any potential support systems, and gaslight her into questioning her own reality. He exploited her insecurities for his own amusement, weaving a web of control that left her emotionally dependent on him. OLDJACK convinced Mia that she was special, that she alone could understand him, while simultaneously tearing her down with cruel remarks and mind games. He alternated between moments of false affection and outright cruelty, keeping her off balance and desperate for his approval. But the psychological abuse was only the beginning. OLDJACK's behavior took a darker turn as he began to sexually harass and threaten Mia. He would send her explicit messages, often detailing graphic and violent fantasies involving her. In one particularly chilling instance, he threatened to rape her, claiming that she deserved it for not obeying him. These threats were not idle. They were calculated acts of terror designed to break her spirit and assert his dominance. Mia, already vulnerable and isolated, was paralyzed by fear. She felt trapped, unable to escape Old Jack's grip or confide in anyone about the horrors she was enduring. The abuse escalated over time, with Old Jack becoming bolder in his actions. He would demand inappropriate photos for Mia, threatening to leak her personal information if she refused. He manipulated her into believing that no one else would ever care for her, that she was worthless without him. Mia, desperate for validation and unaware of Old Jack's true intentions, became ensnared in his web of control. Her once bright spirit was dimmed, replaced by a constant state of fear and anxiety. The downfall of Exodus came at the hands of a brilliant Discord strategist known only as Sleuth. Sleuth had been quietly observing Old Jack's behavior for months, gathering evidence of his crimes and building a coalition of disillusioned members. When the time was right, Sleuth struck with surgical precision, exposing Old Jack's manipulation, abuse, and hypocrisy in a meticulously crafted exposé that sent shockwaves through the server. The revelation was catastrophic for Old Jack. Members who had once feared him now turned against him, emboldened by Sleuth's leadership. In a matter of hours, Exodus was overthrown and Old Jack was stripped of his power. Sleuth, with the support of the server's members, transformed the toxic wasteland of Exodus into a thriving, inclusive community named the Confederate Districts of Israel. The new server was a stark contrast to its predecessor, emphasizing kindness, collaboration, and creativity. The fall of Exodus was a devastating blow. His empire, the one thing that had given him a sense of purpose and control, was gone. The exposure of his crimes left him isolated and despised, even by those who had once feared him. In a final act of desperation, Old Jack abandoned his community, disappearing from Discord and the internet at large. His once commanding presence was reduced to a ghostly memory, a cautionary tale whispered among those who remembered the rise and fall of Exodus. The disappearance of Old Jack marked the end of an era, but it also served as a reminder of the fragility of power built on manipulation and fear. While the Confederate Districts of Israel flourished under Sleuth's leadership, Old Jack's legacy remained a dark stain on the history of online communities, a testament to the dangers of unchecked ambition and the consequences of exploiting others for personal gain. And so, Thomas Taylor Corliss, the boy who once stood in line with his head down, vanished into obscurity, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a story that would haunt the digital world for years to come. The story of Thomas Taylor Corliss, known infamously as Old Jack, serves as a stark reminder of the profound impact that loneliness, trauma, and unchecked behavior can have on an individual's life. His descent from a troubled, isolated child into a manipulative and destructive online figure underscores the importance of reaching out to those who may be struggling in silence. Loneliness can fester into something far darker if left unaddressed, and it is our collective responsibility to check on the quiet ones, the ones who seem lost or withdrawn. A simple act of kindness or a moment of connection could be the lifeline that prevents someone from spiraling into the abyss. For internet users, Old Jack's story is also a cautionary tale about the dangers that lurk in digital spaces. The anonymity of the internet can embolden harmful behavior, and it is crucial to remain vigilant, both for our own safety and the well-being of others. Be mindful of the communities you join, the people you trust, and the influence you allow others to have over you. Most importantly, remember that behind every screen name is a real person with real struggles, some of whom may be fighting battles we cannot see. Stay safe, stay kind, and always be aware of the potential for danger in the digital world.